Boys and girls, sweater weather is upon us. The award season has returned again, and I'm about to have 3 beautiful months of content. And yet, every single time around this year, when the Game Awards come back again, we keep seeing the same industry opinions being thrown around. However, interestingly enough, this year, a game is breaking the mold and is doing things we've never seen done before, and is being able to worm its way into not 1, not 2, but at least 4 categories, including Game of the Year. As an indie, this of course being Velatro. It's a well-deserved win. The game itself is amazing, and if you haven't played it, you need to play it to understand it, because you're missing out on shit like this.
Look, we can get a Giga Chad from this. And that's all you need to know. Oh, ho, ho, ho. They said it couldn't be done. I need to get out of Mad Joker and into something a little bit more reliable. Like, honestly, we just kind of need to find the Cavendish. Oops, all polychrome. We've done it, except now we can't get an ectoplasm. Okay, guess we unlocked Flush 5. But maybe now I should be. Did you see that? What if we sigil this? I have 26 clubs now. Wait. Start onking off.
Better than Christmas with a cake. And yet, there are people that feel the need to try to think of the Game Awards as anything else other than an opportunity for events and advertisers to try and shill to you about the products that you should buy, the gamer fuel that you should put into your body, and about the games that are going to be coming up either in or outside of the first to second to third fiscal quarter of the year, if not for games coming in the future. There was a bizarre interaction that I was able to witness on Twitter that encapsulates this level and attention of glove shitto behavior. I want to show it to you. Come with me. We're gonna have a fun time today. For comedic and concerning purposes, for preservation of my sanity and voice, any words not penned and authored by me is going to be narrated by text-to-speech application, just so you know.
The nominees for Game of the Year at the Game Awards on December 12th. Vote now, http://vote.
For the people mad about Ballatro's nomination, it's the Game Awards, not the Interactive Movie Awards.
Ballatro is one of those rare indie games that just excels at mechanical perfection. Only other big examples I've touched are Slay the Spire and FTL, and Into the Breach. Frankly, a game like that deserves recognition for being what it is, a really fucking good game to play.
Indie games have a better hit/miss ratio than AAA games and have for 5 years now. Stop acting like it's a novelty so we can actually hold AAA studios to account for their dogshit practices.
What the fuck are you talking about? Did you wander into this conversation from an insane asylum?
Calling it one of those rare indie games with great execution after we've had almost a decade of indie game bangers come out numerous times a year is just weird. I don't know, man.
The vast majority of indie games are newground slop you will never hear about. Stop being so fucking defensive while I'm actively praising multiple indie games at once. It makes you look like you belong in a pharmaceutical advertisement.
There's a wide gap between the newground slop and the indie games with a small publisher that still managed to be popular and well known even before surprising people by not being dogshit. Yacht Club had this shit figured out in 2012.
And if you check new releases under Steam, you know, I know, we all know, you'll find a tidal wave of games you keep not talking about in favor of the indie equivalent of AAA releases. Because you just, for some godforsaken reason, need to decry to live.
What exactly am I decriing here, baby girl? Apart from your dad?
Last time on Power Rangers Time Force!
Indie games just seem like that since you don't know about the 500 shitty ones where you are forced to know the 10 big games that come out each year whether they are ass or not.
And no one loses anything if a small indie developer with an overhead of 5 figures maximum makes a mediocre game.
Right, but they don't necessarily have a better hit ratio. You just only really hear about the successes, whereas with AAA you'll hear about it good or bad.
What if I told you that the well-marketed and often fan-supported indie games with a lot of groundswell before their release have a very nearly 100% hit rate, and that anyone not insisting on debate pervert bullshit can suss that out is my point?
You started talking here by actively misconstruing someone else's point. Just shut the fuck up and go find a conversation you haven't fumbled.
Oh, dip, we calling Twitter threads conversations. Now, that's cool. So, why are you upset?
Last time on Power Rangers Time Force!
It is here, after witnessing both instances of this insertion, that not once but twice the Glub Shuttle opinion was used as a justification to, instead of seeing opportunities as open-faced as they very surely come and are, to celebrate games, even when we know that the opinion and the weight of votes for the audience versus the media figures that are going to be voting on it is weighed against the audience favor, but is literally just an opportunity to have yet another case of pedigree farming to justify the obsoleted existence of the industry as it exists as a whole, but also the presentation of a really dumb talking point that I wanted to dig through. Because, in this person's mind, word of mouth is actually not enough to be able to talk about good games. No. Good games happen all the time, especially in the indie scene. Why are you treating it like it's a happenstance that never fucking occurs? Don't you know that this group had already called it years ago? You guys are getting in the way of the culture war. It's time for us to use this to batter the industry over the head. The industry that's been actively destroying itself to try and find the new audience that doesn't exist. See, it's bizarre, because to pap this on to Path of Exile, as we are all counting on the days till December 3rd on that Tuesday, every single bit of the internet is literally hyped up beyond belief. It cannot be exacerbated how ready all of us are for this content. And you ain't gotta take my word for it. I can show you how crazy you are for it right now.
Holidays are coming, holidays are coming. 'Tis the season, watch out, look around, something's coming.
So apparently, oh man, there's a good chance that Elon Musk might play PoE 2.
Elon Musk status. Oh, Elon Musk has got a new status. Oh my god, what class is this? Ascendancy you hype from Path of Exile 2? I'm usually big turn melee weapon warrior, but Monk is looking real good with darkness and avatar mode. Rob is about to be enlightened. He's about to be enlightened. Rob is about to be enlightened, and he's gonna. This is gonna be Rob, bro. This is gonna be Rob. Rob from the block. He's out here, bro. He's out here.
I forgot all about Rob from the block.
D4's dead to him, bro. Straight up. Straight up. Dude, he's logging in. He's gonna convert. He's gonna convert, bro.
A lot of people are logging in now.
Rob from the block is gonna convert. For sure.
Where's the ship from
He's coming, bro. Once you log, how can you play PoE and not get converted? If he plays for like, you can understand. If Rob from the block plays for like 200 hours or something, he's gonna convert.
Of course.
All right, Elon Musk, where are we? Whatever classes.
Wait, he's actually talking about playing.
It's momentum occasions like this that make it so obvious that there are people that just be fucking talking just because they feel like they have the right to. Which is bizarre in and of itself, because the more you dig, the more obvious it becomes that everybody, at least with taste, who looks into the issue, can tell very obviously what the Game Awards should be for most people. It is just a spectacle. It has always been and will forever be a spectacle. And even though they have made a joke of themselves this year, because the Dorito priest himself has now tried to become the Dorito Pope, and attempted to trademark the words Game Awards so that nobody else could be able to use them, of course taking inspiration from the Pokemon Company, it is also obvious, as we dig deeper into this conversation, that the best thing that could be done is for people to see this. Because if more people see what it is that people are actually arguing should be the opposite of what we do, the more obvious it becomes the true message of the situation is, which is that if you haven't played it, you really should be playing these games that we've mentioned and that we will mention. But, see, this is where I come into the fray. Spin that shit, Jethro!
2 failed smug controls in a row. That's a banishment. Go find some verbal competence and try again later.
Big feelings today, huh? Budro, verbal competence, my god.
In the time it took me to read, follow, and comprehend this diatribe, I completed 15-Minute City.
Sidebar, separately on my own streams last night, I explained exactly the same thing he did.
See, the GTA is actually going to be a topic of today's conversation. To simply speak on it, I already know every single time I see a Game Award show that most of the choices are going to be some bullshit, because they're always made by activistic clerics. It is a religion. Jeff Keighley is the Dorito priest, and now I guess the fucking Pope of the gamer access media religion. And every time they choose choices, they always make choices based on popularity votes, not based on actual consensus. Because if you want to be serious, what should be Game of the Year would not be something like Baldur's Gate 3. It'd be Balatro. If you wanted to be dead-ass serious, it would be Balatro. Now, they get mentions. In the article that was written, that I read last night, that I also cut video for last night, it is mentioned in those articles. In the comparison, all hands call meetings that all of these reports are based off of, that they use as the basis for those opinions in those opinion pieces, it is mentioned heavily, but they don't treat them the same because it's not a AAA title. It would be arguable if you could say that it was from Devolver Digital, because if it comes from Devolver Digital, it somehow breaks over this hump where they assume that AAA and AA and indies can or can't coexist and not be considered as eating someone's lunch. And yet, Balatro is probably the only game of this year that I can actually think of, or even more actually, look at in my list. I loved Balatro, Path of Exile, Darkest Dungeon 2, Helldivers 2, because this was CGG, and I need to make sure to set aside time for CGG this month. And Phasmophobia. Basically, Horror's birthday. Played while I was on camera going through content. Tried it out on the side for a day. I played this way too fucking much to begin with anyways. Started playing it for fun rather than playing it for content. This game was horrible. Picked it up on a sale, it was like somewhat free. A game to play when wasting time that could be used in the background of a video. Played because I was trying to learn new tech for it. Like playing it, but every single time I tried playing this with the people that are inside of those normal queues, they fucking suck dick. Learning how to play at level 100 entropy, so your mileage will vary. Almost all of these, with the exception of Smite and Smite 2, either I picked it up because of CGG, or it was a game that was given to me by my sister after me having conversation with her. And some of these have not been touched since the early first fiscal quarter of this year. Either because they're games that are meant to be fun that I picked up that I put down. They are story-based, like Scarlet Nexus, which I bought because I wanted to play a new game. They're like Curse of the Dead Gods, which was played to learn its system, and that I haven't gotten back to on rotation, because I literally have a schedule for how I play them. And then for things that are further down this list, either played it once, didn't like it, or it's a part of my list that I haven't touched because it came from Humble Bundle. There's a significant number of them that exist on this list. But of my most recent, it's been these here, within the first 5 rows. And then one of these I tried to give back, or sell back, after having owned it. No matter how I think about it, there is no world where Balatro should not be top of every single fucking list. It is a roguelike that requires nothing of you but to learn the system. Like, the effort of being taught this game by the game is what makes the game so enjoyable. And people keep sleeping on these games like this. Say what you want about things like Unloved, Once Human, Constant Warning, Phasmophobia, and things like it. Darkest Dungeon 1, Darkest Dungeon 2, and Helldivers 2, which of course also is inside the mentions of these lists, but only after they felt that it was safe to finally support it positively, because they could no longer use it for cultural war purposes. There's something about this game that people just keep fucking not recognizing and giving its due diligence. It should be talked more about. But perhaps the reason why they don't want to do that is because if they know that they have to actually treat it like the game it deserves to be, they won't be able to use it for the purposes of suggestions for gambling. Etc. etc. I don't know how you feel about that. I want to know your opinion. Sir, you need to play Balatro to understand this, and then play it again if it didn't sink in. I'm more interested in why you think the Game Awards is anything other than a AAA slop fest hosted by the Dorito Pope. Because the categories are rigged and judged with 90% weight by the literal slop consumers and yellow journos of gaming media, and some political ones too.
According to the official website of the Game Awards, the opinion of the fans counts in the selection of winners, but the value of their vote is much smaller than that of the jury. Thus, the jury's decision counts for 90, compared to the 10 for the popular vote. Counted amongst the judges, this includes IGN, Inverse, Polygon, PC Gamer, The Verge, MinMax, Touch Arcade, What's Good Games and Game Rant. It also includes non-gaming publications that deal in Hollywood industry gossip and tabloid media watchdogs or never heard of or spoken of groups, such as The Jeff Gressman Show, The LA Times, VentureBeat, NPR. Yes, that NPR. Pride, and Variety Magazine. Why is non-gaming media involved with the overblown award show? Why do they have controlling weight of the vote? Obviously, it's because of Jeff's obsession with bowing before Hollywood and trying his damnedest to make this venture sensationalized commercial and game reveal procession fetch.
I've also had a hand at and with exactly what Jack said about indie slop being run-of-the-mill, or unique gems that for its presentation and gameplay gets tragically slept on, for several reasons. Behold, the wall of games! Games that I have touched recently, games that I haven't touched for years. They're all here. And some that I got off the Humble Bundle. I wasn't really feeling all. Some of them I've never even installed or played before. They just came free with the fucking monthly. You know what I'm saying? Now me personally, out of here, some of my personal favorites. You've got Palatro. A recent pickup I got for myself was Dungeon Claw. I'm obviously not counting things that are upcoming that will be released soon within next week, like Path of Exile 2, but you know, Path of Exile 2, it'd go right there between Once Human and Path of Exile 1. You've got Darkest Dungeon. You've got Kingsgrave. That was a gift from my sister. Soul Ash 2 is always great. Soul Ash 1 is good, but it's not as great as Soul Ash 2 if you don't like having to do a raw run from the start. You've got Heretics Fork. Blaze Through Entropy Effect is a fucking treat. One on this list that is really good that I haven't touched in a while is Curse of the Dead Gods, made by the same people that made Raven's Watch, another great classic. This game, however, is particularly annoying because not that you cannot play it by yourself, but ever since they initiated the multiplayer function, and ever since it left early access, the majority of players that are in that game that will be put in your lobbies are absolute dog water. Then, of course, Crush the Industry, Hey Glenn, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor if you like burning time. Mortal Sin is a wonderful example to look at, especially since it's an update made by the person. Necrosmith 2 is fun and interactive. It acts more like a god game and a puzzle game at the same time. Astalon Tears of the Earth is a great Metroidvania. Very good, very wonderful. I wasn't particularly happy with how they did Wizard with a Gun, but it's there if you give it a chance. Not enough can be said about Slay the Spire. Simply, even without including mods for all of these games, which is also a caveat. Without mods, they're good. Slay the Spire is excellent. Roguebook, even more so, although this one is going to be a little bit more hard for those that are not familiar with playing them. V Rising, wonderful. Eldritch, also wonderful. Death Must Die, Loop Hero, Star Renegades, beautiful, beautiful. A number 1. Bit Dungeon 2's here. FTL Advanced Edition is here. Because the saves are saved concurrently on your system, my file is not there properly in the whole way. Same thing was the case example for World of Horror, wherever it is on this list. But still wonderful. Still wonderful, wonderful games. Void Bastards is an interesting one from Blue Manchu. They designed it like a 3D, 2D crushdown. So, 3-dimensional environment, 2-dimensional enemies, but they occupy a omniscient sphere of view like you're looking at them from the front in a comic book panel, which is what they designed their the thing as. In a comic book panel. This entire viewpoint, and the fact that it's a roguelike, makes it so that every single attempt that you do is like you're playing through a comic book. It is great. It is wonderful. To spend a little bit of time explaining Curse of the Dead Gods, it's like any other Hades-like, if you want to call them that, but this one comes with multiple levels of difficulty that extends about how you choose to engage with the weapons you choose and how you explore the route that you're taking. It punishes you a lot more and forces you to have to learn how to win without getting hit. Not because you get more benefits just from not being hit, but specifically, your ability to survive becomes about understanding how to stack money. This is a bit endgamey, but it's something that it will not necessarily demand perfection, but it will ask for it heavily. Atomic Crops, both the original farming, which is now known as classic mode, and the updated watering farming method, fantastic. Just fucking fantastic. You literally cannot beat it. Literally cannot beat it. It's got so much in here. You just need to play it. You just need to play it. As you can clearly see from my hour time put into this, you need to play it in order to understand it. Back by Kiro, another good one. Strike Buster Prototype. It seems like it's a fucking throwaway game, but the only reason why I didn't keep playing this one is because Entropy Effect scratches the exact same itch. No introduction is required for World of Horror, because if I explain it to you, I'm spoiling it for you. The most that I will say is that it's a point-and-click adventure, but it's much more like a point-and-click adventure that's made on the rules of a roguelike, and learning the outcomes of every story actually dictates how you path through the choices it gives you. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Vault of the Void, it's another roguelike, but this one is much more top-down and fun and straightforward. Gives you more opportunity to become busted and broken if you learn how to play the decks. Very good. Clicky clicker, enough said. Adventure Capitalist and Adventure Communist are just there, but without having to involve the payment of money, if you wanted to cheat. Idle game. Good fun idle games. Same thing with Soul to Dungeon 2. You don't have to pay a single bit of money for this. None whatsoever. It's just there. You play it. You enjoy it. It is what it is. Deep Dungeons Doom. Same thing. Another roguelike. Aratus, Lord of the Dead. This one's more in the degrees of Darkest Dungeon and Darkest Dungeon 2. Instead of a campaign-based run where you start as adventurers from the top to the bottom down, this reverse Diablo, as you could call it, is you as the necromancer fighting from the bottom up to get out of where you were buried, and playing the entire time as the adversary, but doing so to make your minions stronger throughout a run, is a bit more about having fun with the design of the party you choose to put together, and putting up to four-man teams to complete whatever objective and task you want as you complete. Inscription is beautiful. It's wonderful. Once you complete the game and you unlock Casey's mod, or if you're one of those fucking people and you have no interest of doing that and you just want to play the roguelike Casey's mod mode, that is wonderful. It is there for you. It will be endless fun. Deep Sky Derelicts, same thing. Ring of Pain, same thing. Ironically enough, in the view of things that were designed by Adult Swim Games, Wasted, and somewhere on this list as well, Kingsgrave, wonderful pickups. Literally cannot be able to suggest them more, because it is ironically a beautiful design and a beautiful mindset that could only be established by being a fan of Williamsburg Street. But it is a bit story-esque in falling off there. However, there is an internal mode that is a training run for what is supposed to be a mechanic that allows you, in your story mode, to receive an additional weapon as a daily run bonus. If you play that training mode over and over again, it's like playing a roguelike from the beginning with 0 perks and needing to figure out how you keep going deeper and deeper into the run. Good game. Good game. Nuclear Throne, even though Remi's Molly is a fucking shitter, Nuclear Throne is okay. It can get hard, looping can be difficult, but it'll absorb a lot of time. I spent nearly 300 hours in it, I spent nearly 300 hours in it, so it's not at all bad. Domekeeper, when it first came out, was rough, but when they redesigned it, they made it better, and that made it good, so that's nice. Dicey Dungeons is a wonderful treat, Downmill is a wonderful treat, Dungeon Souls is a wonderful treat, as is Neochrome, but I would say Neochrome, especially since they moved all the development to later titles, kind of one of those slop games we're talking about. Dungeon Souls can also be considered one of those slop games as well, but I found enjoyment in playing it. They just, the way that they were designed, they are not friendly. Not friendly at all. Forager is a great puzzle game, right out there with the Spiral Scouts, made by the same developer as Honeypot and Honeypot 2. Dicey Dungeons, same, also good, very good, also good. Mindustry is nice, Aground is nice, Streets of Rogue is nice. Oxygen Not Included is an autism simulator that no matter how many times you play it, you will always feel like you are bad. This is a trap for most people. It truthfully is. But it's good. 20 Minutes to Dawn, also nice. Her Name is Fire, also nice. Both of these could be considered a type of slop, but your mileage will vary. Pac-Man 265 is okay if you like doing something that's an idler, or not so truly an idler, but like turn your brain off and just follow nice little dots. Not enough can be said about Graveyard Keeper. Graveyard Keeper is amazing, no matter what type of platform you're playing it on. A caveat is that if you're going to play this for the Switch, you do not get access to the Saving Soul DLC because of the way that the DLC was designed. You don't need it in order to truly experience Graveyard Keeper in its fullest format, but the PC edition will always be more superior in the sense of the content that is available than the mobile versions. But again, mileage varies. Tribes of Midgard, a game that ironically is extremely fun, but its player base is very small. It is alive, but it is very small. As is with this single-player design of Shattered Pixel Dungeon, which is a mod of the original Pixel Dungeon, which started out as a mobile game. This game is amazing, but it is designed like NetHack, which means it is a true roguelike, which means it is very hard. Shotgun King, also good. Darkest Dungeon, also wonderful. Avoid Realm of the Mad God like a living plague. This game has been ruined ever since it was sold to multiple companies. First from Wild Shadow Studios, its original developer, to Giant Bomb, then from Giant Bomb to its current owners, Deca. This game would be wonderful if everything was not locked behind a paywall, with the ability to expand your play class, and being nickel and diamond out of the fucking wazoo. Honey Pop and Honey Pop 2, and technically I would put this in the same degree as the other game as well. Honey Camp Studio, this is Bejeweled with tits. If you remove the ecchi essence, it's just voice acting Bejeweled with tits. Really, that's really all there is to it. Yeah. Death State. Death State is amazing. Another one that is going to be difficult and hard as a roguelike, but once you get adjusted to how the game's build works and how to play with the control scheme, as well as dodging, you'll have a lot of wonderful time. Slasher's Keep is also good. Archvale, it's one and done, but getting to the point where you'll be able to complete it is wonderful. Juice Realm, another one of those games that feels like it's a bit of a drop-off, and then the further down this list, they start really dropping off in quality. That does not mean that they're all bad, it's just that many of them are good and many of them are not good. Clicker Heroes, one of the games that, like the design of something like Clicky Clicker, is designed to be played as an idler. This one, unlike the original Clicker Heroes, which had in-shop transactions, this one was sold for $20, and you can have endless fun with it. Not a single thing needs to be paid, but learning how to build for it is not enough for the scope of this video. And this is already long enough as is. So, anyways. Back to the Glub Shadow. So, back to you, Glub Shadow. When you said these three statements, do you care to elaborate on those games that beat this margin for you? Can you name them? Can you show me your playtime in them? Your personal bests and your achievements? Why I should check them out? Please, inform us. I'm gonna warn you though, failure to meet me with that same energy is gonna be taken as hipster contrarianism. And I'm gonna make money off you as a springboard to talk about the selections made at this event. This conversation, the lack thereof, and the assertion of opinions is shit. Because when you say this, like I asked the first time, why do you think that is? Stop acting like it's a novelty so we can actually hold AAA Studio to account for their dogshit practices. This event has always been an ad sponsorship and category farming to assert why they should get your money in the fear of missing out of the event not pressuring you further down a sunken cost fund fallacy. This is like me doing a shit-ass job hyping myself up for the early access of Path of Exile 2 with Path of Exile 1 content. I already have to get people past the pain point of this giant fucking spear grid. Why would I ever listen and be swayed to the opinion of something actually at me and or us? It'd be one thing to have insults for witty bants, but you didn't even name a single fucking game. I chalk it up to Nalvik's lack of passion if it wasn't obviously seething spite and ire from seemingly fucking nowhere. Didn't even bash the games. You just came swinging Are you so devoid of joy and camaraderie and praise that you can't even find a plausible conversation chance that you need to elbow bite and irony poison about trying to stick it to the man, attacking others at the temple effigy of cosmic blight of Dorito Game of Fuel Promotions that is the Game Awards?
I genuinely do not know what you've been going on about for the past however long this took you. My original point was that indie games are more reliably good than AAA games, and that behaving as if an indie game being nominated is novel is weird. I like indie games, in Balatro.
So the answer is, no, I cannot name another game other than Balatro. I will shit myself in rage and act superior and distance myself from the AIDS picking I was just called on. You can turn into a video 100%.
Cool beans. Found there is no rage or superiority. If you want me to just randomly name indie games, the fuck's that going to prove? Exactly?
I should kiss you. You're providing me with content, and the steel man I have to create out of your bad faith will pay for food and toys. But this is more about giving you the chance to answer those questions that you're feigning. Please answer them. Reading is a skill you need to hone. Also, you're lying. You literally asserted something in the goal to shit on people so that you could hold AAA slop accountable. Twice. Also, you lied again. That's not what you said. Two separate instances of indies don't make AAA lose anything. Stop being a debate pervert, and indie games have a better batting average, is what you're claiming out of being smug. I asked you to name them, and list why.
I'm actually genuinely unsure of what point you're trying to make, but I'm sure your video will be a good use of your time. Also, I don't know how to do that game all shit, and I'm not editing an image of all my gameplay times on Switch and Steam.
I don't know how to add information and context on request, but I do know how to type a non-stop inane bullshit to smear on the wall. Why are you making me explain myself? Priceless. Truly, finger on the pulse of your stillbirth thoughts. All I literally did was the following keystrokes. 1. Open Steam. 2. Click on Library. 3. Sort by last played. Full screen. 4. Screenshot, or in this case, screen record and yap. If this is too hard for you, conversations aren't your bag, my man, and neither is persuasive arguments.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
My longest playtimes are all sub 100 for indie games, since I move on from stuff a lot unless it's specifically time wormhole games, multiple thousands of hours in MMOs and Monster Hunter over the years. Lol.
Very helpful. Illuminates a lot about your opinion. But I still want to hear and see your sales pitch for these games. Let's take Monster Hunter World. Let's pretend I didn't already beat and farm Iceborne. Tell me what to pick up. Sell me the game. Convince me the game is game of the decade. And then the most amazing thing happened next. Run away. Like a bitch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
What we learned in the interim from this, the actual useful information, was picking their brains. This would not have happened if I had not interjected. And what we were able to get from them was this. A list of the games that they claimed they were playing. First, starting with 91.8 hours between a Steam and Switch edition of Dead Cells, 60 hours in Enter the Gungeon. Honestly, the hours don't matter because we know that it's under 100 unless it was, the AAA affair. But Gunfire Reborn, Deep Rock Galactic, Soulstone Survivor, V-Rising, Vampire Survivor, Bomber Cyberpunk, Oblivion Override, Witchfire, Spiritfall, the non-Treasure Trove Shovel Knight spin-offs, Ultra Kill, Mad Shot, Darkest Dungeon, Katana Zero, 7 or so hours in Luck Be a Landlord, The Messenger, Corman, UFO 50, Tactical Breach Wizards, Skelethrone. All of these games that they listed. Some are indie games that I actually do have on my own wish list, but the majority of them, either I've never seen or heard of them, or I have seen them, I have heard of them and I have played them, but the amount of time in which they spent playing them does not measure up at all to the bravado or the energy that they started off the conversation with or the aggression that they kept meeting other people with. So, effectively, the same thing as it ever was. Strong opinions with no backing, which is bizarre and weird because this individual would go on to record separately of themselves, effectively demonstrating and claiming that it is normal for them to say the particular things that they were saying and doing the particular things that they were doing to justify this outlook. And it all has to do with data points, you see.
Don't worry, likes being hidden doesn't mean I'll start liking things. Because shame has never been a part of why I don't like things. It's just that I'm forgetful and refuse to begin new patterns for concern I will forget them. And I refuse to be a useful data point.
At the end of it all, do you see how easily deconstructed, broken, festered, felted, destroyed this individual's behavior, attitude, opinion, and outlook crumble in the face of someone having irked them, using their own tools and their own weapons against them to demonstrate they had no founding and no basis for what they were fucking saying, to show that they didn't even have the mind for the data heuristics to dig into the details, to then be able to extrapolate and demonstrate for anybody hearing or watching what the fuck they were talking about, but that they didn't even have the motivation to play the fucking games that they were so adamant to use as a weapon against an industry that could care fucking less about his inability to do things because he's too fucking lazy, or they are too damn lazy, to actually be able to muster the necessary focus, platform, argument, and then pushing of argument for momentum and motivation to get the ball rolling to demonstrate how important these things are. All of nerd shit is based on the discussion and the breakdown, the comparison, the contrast, and then the passion of the minutia of detail. If you can't even bring yourself to play over 100 hours of the game that you're so adamant that you're going to use as a weapon to beat against the AAA slop, goy slop of the industry, how can you ever be able to then be so bravado and annoying, disrespecting the social contract, let alone of Twitter, of all places, but of the internet, to try and justify your views and opinions because you're so gung-ho for a war that you're not really capable of even fighting, because not only did you already lose the war, you can't even motivate yourself to fight the battle. This is why I've learned recently that there are two things that we need to start seriously doing as individuals who speak on matters. Number one, everybody can't have a motherfucking opinion. Everybody cannot have a motherfucking opinion. They can't. Because some of them haven't earned the right to. And the reason why they haven't earned the right to is because of the same thing that we spin on the wheel eternal about. And that all comes back to people actually having attitudes and braggadocious egos, trying to compare and contrast to things that they never had a real interest of getting into, because they want to get in the thickets of the reeds. And then when they get into the thicket of the reeds, they either get very bored, or they want to run away from the situations that they caused and throw the blame and the cleaning up of the shit that they caused and did to someone else's feet. 2, we have to make space for these discussions. Because by not making the space for these discussions and taking the time to do so, we allow individuals like this to run around like the eggs pigs that they are, justifying why they get to barge into conversations that they inherently misconstrued just so they can maul about the particular thing they want to run their gums about. And we have to do so that when they do enter that dedicated space for that conversation, if they're not willing to dedicate themselves to the mental requirements and the rigor to demonstrate it and the points of information that dictate that knowledge, then they can't be allowed to have an interaction, because that last piece of information was actually the most important information that we could be able to have between ourselves, at least with what myself and Jack was talking about.
Well, that's weird. He's implying something about primarily AAA games captures his attention for thousands of hours, almost like An indie game doing that is in some kind of subcategory, rarer overall than the instances in which this doesn't happen. Well, that's weird.
Certainly gonna have to call up Steelman Industries to get a Diamond Rush order, cause I'd love to get to the bottom of this mystery they can't address, but it's certainly debate brain to ask about in details. One for the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, by golly.
See, ultimately, what's happening every single time we have these conversations is that there's a very particular conversation thread that needs to be had. And in order to have that conversation, we have to be able to follow it with a through line that allows for the point that some people want to have. In this case, I hate AAA gaming. I hate AAA gaming. The indies are actually better than they've been before. Don't you know this? Since 2012, Yacht Club figured it out. Doesn't belong in the space that is designated for, bro, this, even while it's very clearly a sweep from the industry, is a moment for us to be able to recognize something that everyone collectively understands, even if the people who are running the show refuse to acknowledge it. I understood this, Jack understood this, Sophia Narwitz understands this. I'm pretty sure multiple individuals, both in their own spheres of influence as well as the entire industry over, know that Balatro deserves, on any serious regard, to win multiple awards for Game of the Year. Multiple games, in that, deserve to have recognition for the things that they have. That's a separate video for that particular cut. But we need to be able to create the spaces in which to talk about it in. Fortunately, I happened to answer a question on Twitter that actually demonstrates exactly how this works and how this breaks down. We can go over it here. Won't take long. Ultimately, the problem with spaces and creating spaces for those conversations is that they work out a little bit something like this. Someone asked me when I was describing and breaking down why difficulty should be handled and why discussions about difficulty should be handled a certain way, said, shouldn't it be making it easier on yourself, since bragging would carry less weight if you did something that was supposed to be difficult on an easy mode? And my response to them is that it depends on the game, and it also depends on how the game handles difficulty, as well as the scope of the conversation in and of itself. If content is added and removed based on a slider option, yes, it makes it absolutely easier, because then it holds less value and weight, because you have to actively engage with less material, or more material. It makes it more difficult on you, because in order to achieve the bragging rights that you want, you have to do more, whereas the same game, but a lesser difficulty, removes content, whether that be physical material you interact with, or the amount of content that you get to engage with, locked to a different difficulty until you step up and show that you can handle that greater difficulty. If it's instead chosen around how you choose to build your character, which is the Elden Ring example, Souls-like example, then it becomes about how much effort was exerted. The difference being, I had to try super hard in order to do this, and only it took me was pushing my pinky and holding down A. Because if we're talking about a game like BlazBlue Entropy Effect, BlazBlue Entropy Effect becomes more difficult because bosses gain new attack patterns, they gain more attacks, they gain bars of health and modes of attack, and entirely new phases based around that. And you have to adapt to that circumstance. Whereas any other game, like Binding of Isaac, your ability to actually get that content is actually locked behind you playing more and thus winning more. For example, you do not get to take on the fetus, as it's called, the alternate form of Mom's heart, unless you have actually defeated Mom 5 times. And that's just for the base game of Rebirth. This doesn't cover Afterbirth, it doesn't cover Repentance, it doesn't cover any of the boosters, it doesn't cover any of the additional content or the lower content or the flip side photographs of content. Everything bases itself on your play skill and thus on your engagement cycle. Balatro is very much like this as well with challenges, which is why I brought them up so goddamn much. But the conversation moves a little bit further the more you start focusing on exactly what it is you're trying to describe. Ultimately, the thing that we are trying to describe in whole, and what was at key here, was me G-checking him on his knowledge and whether or not he deserved to have it. This would be why I used the Elden Ring example. Because, in the Elden Ring example, in order for me to be able to argue about it, I have to first prove my bragging rights, and why I have the reason to care as passionately as I should. For me, the Elden Ring example is, can you be able to learn the mechanics of a boss so that you can be able to defeat that boss with some level of skill and integrity? In most cases, yes, you can. You can see on the side here that I'm choking it up a fucking storm, but once I actually get it in the cycle, I start whooping the fuck out of Loretta the Mage at rune level 30. And this becomes the difference of what I said when I said the amount of effort that is exerted for it. I have to learn timers, I have to learn skill level, I have to learn background, I have to be able to then perform it, I then have to be able to consistently do it, and I have to learn how to do it in various situations, whether it's with setup, that then allows it to be more guidelined, or with no setup, meaning it's entirely based on my ability to adapt, and it's based entirely on my approach on how I use that adaptability to keep consistent on the pace that I set for myself, within or without those guidelines. So, basically, the similarity between can I do it by sight reading, can I be able to play sheet music, and can I be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Adapt and syncopate, adapt and, the word's not coming to me, but jazz playing. Can I be able to adapt and just come up with shit off the top of my head? This, compared against the other example, which of course is the Son Goku Comet Azure build, deals with less involvement and less effort. Literally, it's just throw down the buff, start channeling a skill, point at enemy, and kill with people that are your friends until dead. This multiplayer example, but it can still work in single player as well, is the way that most people go about when they say, don't tell me how to play in my own games, I can play my single player game the way that I want. But what we're talking about is not a single player context. We're talking about the greater context of when we are starting to crush down experiences and knowledge, when we start speaking about a greater perspective that opens up to other people in the exact same space, having a conversation about how you gain skill. Because the skill of knowing how to do data heuristics is less important than the skill to learn how to parry, and whether or not you should be relying on sorceries with absolutely no melee whatsoever. Because what that looks like when you abuse this is you ultimately become this. This, by the way, is Dropout Dragon.
Pointing me, it makes me want to focus on you.
They start spamming sorceries and incantations.
Yes!
He gets carried and retaliated and hit with his own spear.
We got it! We got it, baby!
Nobody wants to be this guy, because every single time when this happens, this is when people go onto the internet and say, oh my fucking god, why isn't PvP even enabled in this single player game? Why are you allowed to do this? And then in the past before, this is where Get Good really came from. Realistically, it became more a thing because of Five Nights at Fuckboys, and I happen to have a hand in working in Five Nights at Fuckboys 3, but that's beside the point. But this is where the spam of get good, you just dog shit comes from. And really, the people doing that are the same as the other guy. They don't actually have the ability to understand what is necessary to achieve the skill so that this does not become you. Because this is what happens when you do exactly what they did. Because that's what people are trying to complain about and bring to attention. Because it is a crutch. It is a crutch. The attitude of the crutch, of using it for what it is, exploits and makes you exploitable for any situation, whether that be a single player example or a multiplayer example. The example that I provided with what you've seen throughout this video was me exploiting a person who clearly didn't know what the fuck they were talking about and demonstrating why that was important. And then after getting the information to demonstrate why they didn't know what they were talking about, being able to exemplify what that looks like. The difference between doing the rigor, doing the steps, and trying to ignore the rigor because you're so ready to start spewing animosity that you haven't even proven that you have the right to express it. This is our problem. This is the collective issue. And this is what prevents us from being able to solve issues and problems, because the greater issue itself looks like this. Because we do not spend the time making it clear and making it easy to achieve what it is we are trying to do, we end up having to have this discussion thousands of times over. And it ends up looking a little something like this. The space to talk about topics, such as difficulty, is finite, which is equal to the amount of effort and the passion that you have for it. Us liking nerd shit like numbers and data mining is core to that culture. Therefore, the intent of many people to speak on it but not dedicate due diligence to making space for that conversation is seen as disingenuous. Many people accuse others of elitism and thus have perverted these conversations, equating emotional resonance or trauma as authority because they do not want to earn the right to show the proof of concept. The green representing how this topic goes, and the blue circle representing the nuance required in the greater and wider space dedicated to the topic. Obviously, there is a time and place for all sides, hence why the green is drawn to represent the scattered discord of disharmonized language. This, in its whole, is every single example that can be given and would be given about why this problem will always exist and be resolved. Because everybody wants to give an opinion about video games, but nobody ever wants to be the guy to remind people that not everybody needs and meets at the same place. And this is why you have to make space for it. Making space meaning allowing for the pregnant pause of thought, or in this case, the active opportunity upon which to expound upon knowledge, so that everybody can be able to meet in the same place. Because that's the biggest lesson, that's the biggest rule of this. Everybody is not a veteran, everybody isn't in the end game. Giving people bad advice that only applies to the end game and expecting them to treat that as how they need to go forward dealing with everything is setting them up for failure. And we can't set them up for failure. Because if we poison the well early out of the gate like that, then nothing will be improved. To save words, it means that every single game is a puzzle. And while some people are going to figure that puzzle out sooner than others, not allowing them to have the space in which to do that, and trying to force everybody down the route of trying to monopolize, optimize, and then gamify SEO interactions so that you can try to be first and get the first world first or get the first server first, doesn't make gaming better. It certainly doesn't make game journalism better, because that's exactly the reason why game journals are so shit. They try to argue for movie games because movie games are the movie game upgrade-alike that copies the same formula. If it has an accessibility mode that has conflated accessibility options like a button remap with a cheat menu, then they don't have to justify or explain why they deserve to have the right to say what they say. They can just shame you as not liking and trying to be an elitist, pushing out the disabled and the non-abled body, because some people, like Alana Pierce, believe that and will unironically argue that in any place, in any way, in this particular topic, you can say, but I have a kid. That's the reason why I need a pause menu for this game. No. Not because we can't make time and we can't make an argument for why you could be able to have a pause menu. You could obviously do that, but that's not the problem. The problem is, why are you bringing being a mother or a father into enjoying video games for escapism? Put the fucking controller down and do your goddamn job as a parent. What the hell is wrong with you? They are going into places where the discussion does not and should not include these details or include these topics. And instead of taking their time to do so and make it clear that they are saying a specific thing for a specific reason and arguing a specific thing for a specific reason, they instead treat you like you are stupid and hope that you won't catch them doing what they're doing. Because they don't want to take the time to actually engage with the discussion, because they know that if the people who are the sharpest and the quickest on the uptake on this were to catch them doing so, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves verbally. So they don't defend themselves. They pull a Dean Takahashi. They pull an Alana Pierce. They pull an Alyssa Mercante. They strike out and they lash out with accusations and judgment and precognitive adaptation adaptation, that was the word I was thinking of, with cognitive adaptation and accusations and projection, and then run away from the issue, never to speak on it and never to see about it again, because it's not about discussion. It's about homogeny and thought crimes. Daring to question them is tantamount to sin. And so, in short words, TLDR, people not making space for separate complaints that they're making and doing and yapping about the particular things that they're complaining about makes them catch hands from other people who see it as disrespectful and ignorant. And the more savage and disrespectful and ignorant the approach, the more savage, disrespectful, and ignorant the correction and the scalp tearing, especially in the wider conversations. Now, of course, the obvious reason why this is because this is gay. This is gay. It's gay, it scares off fresh new blood that would be willing to assimilate into the culture, because when people do this, and they act this way, people are going to disassociate from them outright. Whether or not someone would be opposed to playing a certain type of game, or playing in a certain type of environment, is completely a matter that belongs in a separate context. What we have to deal with, and what we've been dealing with, is a form of normie casual elitism. Literal normie imperialism that believes that having nuance about these conversations is bad, and therefore all things have to be the same as sweaty nerds debating lore. Because being earnest, being honest, and being passionate gets crushed down to being weird, being delusional, being obsessed, and being unserious. You can't be honest and truthful. You have to be distant, aloof, and disconnected. And you have to maintain the power of the conversation by remaining disconnected. This is why in the past, when I corrected somebody and snatched the scalp of somebody who tried to clip chimp me, I did so as a versus chat segment. Because everybody needed to see and hear what the fuck was being said. Because it was honestly dishonest in and of itself, without even the clip jumping. But the dishonesty of attempting to say things that I didn't say, and attempt to force me to say things that I didn't mean, and certainly never had the intention of saying, and then having to correct them as they lied through their teeth, with the intention of doing it for money. This is what's necessary, because you see, they always want it to be as simple as you hate women. They want it to be as simple as you hate minorities. They want it to be as simple as you hate the transgenders. It's always hatred. It's always animosity. It's always brigading. It's never about trying to make sure that people see eye to eye and they meet each other where they're supposed to be. And this is the greater thing that I've been working on making sure that we make space for whenever I discuss things live on air, or when I discuss things and present things in videos like this, which is why this video took so goddamn long to make. And the puppeteering. But this is the issue. This is what we have to deal with every single time. Every single time there's a Game Awards, we're always going to have to explain the reason why they deserve to have the nominations that people claim they deserve to have. For that, check out the next video. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's puppet show. If you want to see things more like this in the future, please leave comments down below. If you made it this far, be able to say, "Hi Carl, happy post-turkey day," because I have been here in the editing suite. I had to eat Thanksgiving in my bedroom. Well, it's morning now, so I guess I'll be going and getting sleep before I get up. Because today is now the 29th, and when Path of Exile drops on December the 3rd, on that Tuesday, I hope y'all like seeing me play video games, because I'm probably not going to be doing anything but that for a while. Send messages of support to my partner, because Star's finna miss me a while. My second mistress has come to take me away, and she's going to be rough with my hands and my body. Because, Lord have mercy, I know somebody's finna get fucked when I play Path of Exile 2. And it's gonna be me! Goodbye. I need sleep. Or caffeine.